Hey looters, Flutes here, and today I'm going to talk about the thing that makes nothing else really matter in the game, because it's the most important thing, and it's player agency, today on Flutes Loot. As usual, I have a link in the description below that gives you an article to accompany this video where I talk all about player agency, what it is, how to master it, and what it looks like, and how to know how well you are doing player agency. This is also going to be a series of videos where I talk about the ways I have been implementing changes to 5e's rules or using variant rules or homebrew rules without completely revamping the system, make it the kind of game I want it to be, and especially to maximize player agency in a way that is valuable to me and my players. In this video, I'll talk about the player agency and then check out the next videos about how I'm doing that, which will also give you some interesting insights into some of the variant rules and why you might consider using them too. So in my article, I define player agency in this way. Player agency is when players experience the freedom to make impactful choices tied to a game's outcomes. It is the magic sauce that assures players their choices matter. It encourages them to invest time and energy into a shared gaming experience. So why do I say this is the most important thing in D&D? If you've ever been in a game where you felt like your choices didn't matter, I don't think I'll have to do a lot of convincing for you, because I think you know that that game feels like a waste of your time. Sure, sometimes players genuinely like to just sit there while the DM tells a story, but even then, I think those players catch on after a while if their choices don't matter and the narrative, outcomes, consequences, rewards are all set in stone. People talk about murder hobos a lot in D&D, but they don't talk about how the most probable reason that players become murder hobos is because they're tired of their choices not mattering. They feel like they have no agency, so they just do whatever. An NPC offends them, kill them. The local principality wants to tax them, down with the government. But the point is, players show up to D&D week after week for hours, and if they could make more choices that are impactful in a video game, then why aren't they playing video games? The whole point of playing a TTRPG is that it kind of takes a lot of the bumpers off that video game programming can't expand to. You and your DM can go wherever your imagination goes and make a ruling on the fly or whatever it may be, and the DM can improvise based on what you interact with and what they've prepared. The enemy of player agency is the illusion of choice, and there's often the quantum ogre example given, which is when the DM will make sure that the players fight an ogre no matter what their choices are. In a very literal sense, let's say there's two hallways and you make the players choose which one to go down, both of them lead to the same ogre encounter, then that is the illusion of choice. There wasn't a real choice for the players to make other than left and right, but it got the same outcome. If the DM wants to change that encounter later on and reuse it in some way because they prepared it and they think it's cool, that's fine. But if the players' choices don't matter in a given moment, then that's not okay. DMPCs are annoying because they take the spotlight off the players and the players can't make impactful choices. Railroading is irritating for a lot of players because they feel like they can't choose what to do. It's just whatever they're given to do is all that they get, which again has its place. Railroading can have its place, I get it, but you want to give the players choices. So what is player agency good for? It encourages players to talk about the game when they're not in the game and to think about it. It encourages them to roleplay because they know that roleplaying with NPCs matters. They can form alliances that matter, gain information that matters. They can strategize because combat actually matters. Combat won't just be a foregone conclusion where the DM's just not even tracking hit points, and after about 3 rounds of combat and some resource expenditure, they're just going to say that the enemy dies. There's no point in strategizing if the DM's just going to choose when combat's over. It's all an illusion of combat. I guarantee you, if players feel like they have agency and they can see their choices coming to life in your world, they're going to want to interact with the world. I took some time to think about all the ways in-game player agency matters, and here's the list I came up with. One is combat, like I just mentioned. You want the roles to matter. You don't want it to be like whose line is it anyway, where the points don't matter. Next category is outcomes, whether they be good or bad. I don't just say consequences. People tend to focus on consequences, but it's an outcome. It could be good or bad. I, as a player, love it if something good or bad happens based on my choices. It doesn't have to all be good, but I want it to be from my choices. Next is quests and goals. Do players have the agency to choose where their player characters are spending their time? Or is there like one set quest that is the world-ending quest and they have to do that and they can't deviate or waste time doing other things? Next is resource management, which also feeds into combat. Your players have their characters who have limited use abilities, spell slots, item uses, and all these things. And if it doesn't matter that they have limited uses, they don't care about the resource management. This will also feed into the gritty realism rules video I'm going to make about this, because D&D 5e's game design does not match with how people actually play the game. And so gritty realism, I think, is the most important variant rule that you should consider as a DM. And one of the benefits is resource management will become more real to the players as they have to really consider what matters. And guess what? Those short rest fighters and other marshals are going to do just fine if the spellcasters take like a week to recharge their spells. It's not that simple, by the way. There's like sheltered and non-sheltered rules the way I've been doing it. Definitely check out that video when I put it out. But yeah, resource management is huge if you don't want your players to just Nova at the one fight a day you give them where they can just blow all of their resources. Rewards. What kind of rewards drive your players or your player characters to action? And are they getting those kind of rewards? Or do they never get rewards? In my video about spending wealth and gold in D&D 5e, I was surprised how many people say they just never get rewards from their DM. That probably shouldn't be. Then the last category of in-game is role-playing. I promise you people will roleplay more if they think their choices matter. This is partially because, as Dragnacarta wrote on my website, flutesloot.com, dramatic questions are what make role-playing very rich. If there's a question behind every interaction, like are they going to be able to get this information? Are they going to be able to sway this ally? Whatever that dramatic question might be, the role-playing becomes more interesting and the player's role-playing choices matter. And you can do that while still rolling for things like persuasion and whatnot. But I also want to make a video about how roles aren't always just about how your player character interacts with a given situation. Roles by the players are also informing the DM of a reality that is true. And so the DM might actually make a lock stronger if a master thief rolls really low and can't pick it. Not because it was always meant to be a really strong lock, but the rolls kind of demanded it. I think that's going to be a really good video. All right, now let's talk about some out-of-game or meta examples of player agency. Number one is character creation and session 0. Like, why do players care about those things if their choices aren't going to matter? They're choosing what lineage their character is going to be. They're choosing what class they are, what feat they're going to get if they have a level 1 feat, like a lot of people do. That includes me, by the way. And if their backstories and the kind of pack they pick or their background and their languages, if none of that matters, then 5e was literally designed to disappoint them because it has them put those things on their character sheet and a new player thinks those things are going to matter. It's not going to come up and they're going to be disappointed and they're going to stop paying attention to those details of the game. A lot of character creation details are really important to players, and that's a whole fun part of the game. There are hundreds, maybe thousands of videos on the internet of people making interesting character builds or thinking of interesting backstories or ways to roleplay their character. And they're not even playing the game. They're just thinking of ideas for the game that are interesting. Character creation is a huge part of being a D&D player, and it's a very fun part. Next is problem-solving methods. How do your players solve problems, and does it always get them a dead end because they're not guessing the way that you want them to solve the problem? I'm not saying you have to make any choice they make work. It's not a yes and extravaganza where you have to say yes to everything. Sometimes yes anding is helping them figure out solutions based on their ideas without just changing whatever you did to go with whatever bad idea sometimes they have. So for example, if a player always tries to solve a problem by seducing people and you always make it work, they're just going to keep doing it, and it doesn't really feel like their choices matter in that sense. They just caught on to something that works or that you always make it work for them. But if sometimes there's a hiccup in that solution and someone else in the party has to come up with a solution, that helps everyone to see that, okay, you can't just do whatever you want because the DM wants things to progress. Heaven forbid we actually get stuck on a problem for a while, which DMs, you do need to learn to grin and bear it sometimes when they're working through things, but also help them along. Give them little hints or help them with some logic or remind them of things. That's totally fine. And if they're getting a detail wrong, definitely just like help them remember properly like some information from before, because you want them to be strategizing and thinking of problem solving methods that are going to help them, that is satisfying to them. Another out of game player agency thing is questions. If your players are asking you questions, they are engaged. They're enjoying the game, or they think something's amiss or whatever it might be. But if they're asking questions, don't ever like dismiss it or act like it's foolish to ask the question, and pay attention to why they're asking it because they're probably interested about something. And then the next out of game thing is world building. If players have the agency to interact with the world and affect it, And not only that, but you as the DM, you develop different parts of your world because they choose to interact with it. For example, I was doing a garden of sorts that had a statue of all these heroes of a given city, and all of them had a little placard next to it. And I prepared some of them, but the players wanted to read all of them. I was able to put together all these different placard quotes, and the players really enjoyed that, and it kind of brought that bit of the world to life. That was satisfying for them, and it was really satisfying for me because I'm developing my world in a more real way. How do you as a DM prepare content for the game that enable player choice? Sure, you can look at their backstories for some hints about what to do, but you don't have to revolve everything around the player characters. If anything, you want to give them quests that have pieces of their backstories that are relevant to it, but it's not just like, oh, their backstories are the overarching plot of everything. At least not up front. Maybe it develops into that later. But you want to get this term in mind, player-driven plots. This doesn't mean that they write the plot for you, but it means wherever they're spending their time is where you need to put plots that are interesting. So again, if the nobleman of the town taxes them and the players spend a whole session trying to get out of paying taxes, you give them a tax arc where they're trying to deal with the taxes of the town and reform the fiscal policy of the government. I don't know, but let them lean into that and show that if they care about something, you will yes and that and provide content for it, whether you're improvising or preparing, but probably both. I recommend creating a box of preparation and then within that box bouncing around with improvisation. What I am trying to say is that world building is usually seen as this solitary chore of the DM, which is fun, but to me, the best world building happens at the table with other players interacting in the world, and their ideas and the things that they latch onto inspire me as the DM, and that's what gets me going. I've been making this campaign setting I've been working in called DeLuna that's based on an anti-magic moon for years now, and I finally just said I need to actually play in it. I need to DM for players. And I told them that I have this world that I'm developing and I want you to help me develop it by playing in it. And I gotta say, that premise to the players, first of all, the anti-magic moon and the fact that I'm developing the world as we go has been really thrilling to them, seemingly. They've been engaged in every session and they were very eager to start playing in this campaign. Once I told them the premise, they were like, can I please play? Additionally, you can ask players what their agendas are for the upcoming game. Say, okay, based on what's been happening, what are you all looking to spend your time doing in the next session? Figure out what they're interested in. If they're going to go to the blacksmith to try to commission some weaponry and that sort of thing, make sure you get Heavy Arms Complete Armorer's Handbook from the DM's Guild, which I need to do a review of, but I use it a lot in my campaigns. But actually ask your players what their characters are going to spend their time doing. In this way, you have a better idea of what to prepare to make their choices matter because you have good content for it. And then from your perspective, they help you with your world building. So playing D&D is almost like a brainstorming session with rules and role playing to help you develop a world. Because I want to publish my setting one day for people to play in. And so it's great to have players helping me brainstorm of what else to develop in the world. Another thing that really helps is preparing to improvise. And so having Excel workbooks like I do of NPCs, of their names and like a quirk about them and what their lineage is, just really quick prompts to just, if someone approaches somebody or there's some situation you just want to give them someone to interact with, you just go to your list and give them one of those. You don't need to have a whole backstory for these NPCs because you just give them some basic details and you fit them into whatever part of the world in that moment in that game that you need that NPC the most. And you don't need to have the perfect fit, you just need a quirky NPC to fill whatever role it is. Now I should also say, you do need to balance your storytelling methods with player choices. You don't want the players to dictate everything that happens. You still want to surprise them and give them things that are going on that they can wonder about and work towards. Because if they think you have nothing going on and you're completely going off of their choices, that's also going to be a turnoff for them. I also made a short once where I said one of the best decisions I made as a player was to tell my DM that it's okay if my character dies. Likewise, as a DM, I tell people one of the consequences of your choices can be your character perishing, and that makes the game more fun. I really believe that anyone who acts like character death is something to be feared is not giving you good advice. Sure, there are genuinely people who get really invested in their character and they write backstories that are so long and they would rather stop playing than make a new character. But in general, D&D 5e is the kind of game where if death isn't on the table, that's like one of the fail states, one of the consequences that's really to be worked against. And so if players don't have that as a fail state, their agency is diminished. And likewise, they should have the ability to kill off your BBEG or mini boss 10 sessions earlier than you thought if they do something crafty. Some of my favorite D&D memories are for when I had a bad guy appear in public and the players knew he was bad, but the town didn't, and they did something to reveal him that I did not expect, and they were able to take him out. That is pure player agency, and your players are going to remember that. They'll say, wow, you, DM Jordan, you really didn't expect us to slay that guy, did you? I said, I did not expect that. They love doing the unexpected. How do you know if you're improving your ability to facilitate player agency in the group? If you keep your players making at least one meaningful, impactful choice within a 15-minute interval, then they're going to stay engaged. So you can give the spotlight to one player for a while if they're going to make a lot of choices in 15 minutes, and then the next player a lot of choices in 15 minutes, or however that works out. But if you're going an hour and the players don't get to make like any meaningful choices, whether that be a combat that matters, finding information, finding an item, like whatever it might be, if there's no meaningful choices going on that they feel like the consequences or rewards of those things are relevant, they're going to become disengaged. They're going to catch on. Genuinely, like, think to yourself, what were the meaningful choices they made in that 3-hour game? And if you can't count up even 10 of them, I would say you need to start thinking about how to give them more agency. So in conclusion, if you want to avoid DM and player burnout, and you want your players to help you brainstorm your world, to be engaged, to talk each other outside of the game, to take notes, to remember details, to make bold moves and big choices in the game, which is an improv principle, by the way, of making big choices, then focusing on player agency is your ticket to the most fun D&D game you've ever had. If you're struggling with any other details, those are good to work on too, but pump the brakes on that and think about player agency, I beg of you, because it has been the most transformative thing for my games and my friends. So do you agree with me? Is player agency the most important DM principle, or do you think it is trumped by something else? Have you applied player agency and seen the fruits of it in your game? Or have you seen the absence of it and felt empty and burned out? Tell me about it in the comments down below. Give me examples and specifics. I'd love to hear about it because I'm very passionate about this topic. So turn that like button down below from an empty hand into a lit up mage hand, cast message in the comments down below, and cast thaumaturgy to make a nice bell sound of that notification bell so that you can catch the videos I'm going to be putting out subsequently about the way I'm running my game right now and how it's paid off so much for player agency, world building, and all those things. I think you're going to get a lot of good food for thought about running D&D 5e based on my experiences. And send your DM or players, whatever it may be, the article I wrote or this video and see what they think. I'm so happy whenever I hear people talk about ideas of D&D 5e, and especially if I can contribute to those discussions. All right, y'all, have a good adventure this weekend, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.